Welcome to week 3 lecture. This week there were 3 group presentations, and I want to thank all group members in group 1, 2, and 3 for making your presentation first. Make the first group presentations this week. And then it's all 3 group presentations were about reaction videos that you will have to make soon, right? And we are focusing on the global K-pop fandom, especially in terms of power, race, and participation by the means of reaction videos, right? And group 1 presented this article titled K-pop fans react hybridity in the white celebrity fan on YouTube. And group 2 made a presentation about black K-pop fan videos and polyculturalism. And group 3 did on this reading called White Expat Fans Performing K-pop Other on YouTube, right? And all together, these readings show the reaction videos are key sites where pleasure and power intersect in global K-pop fandom, right? And before we move on to the presentations in this week's readings, I just wanna comment on your discussion question post that you made in week 2, right? There are 4 discussion questions, right? And the first question was, if K-pop did not exist, what might take its place, right? And many of you picked K-dramas or Korean film, and then some picked Japanese anime or manga or J-pop, right? And overall, the discussion post framed K-pop as part of a broader global media ecosystem. And question 2 about the delayed reward idol system, right? What can be similar in your real life, your life experiences, right? So the discussion post, which chose question 2, connected the idol system to experiences of long-term effort and uncertainty. And some picked musical training, it's kind of similar. And some also kind of linked the academic and career path. You have to go through many years of studying, right? But others emphasize that it is not just matter of effort, or you have how many hours, how much effort you have to put in, but also what matters is the loss of freedom and the institutional control, right? I mean, the idol system is like you're not allowed to have, you're not allowed to date, or you're not allowed to even freely use texting and stuff, right? And the discussion was centered on the ethics of prolonged labor without guaranteed incomes. And the next question was about unpaid fan labor, right? So the student, you guys analyzed fandom as labor rather than enthusiasm in answering this discussion question, and identified streaming, voting, and promotion as unpaid digital labor for sure, right? And some posts cautioned that removing fan labor could increase corporate control, which is a really good point, right? If fans are not there, then maybe the agencies may have more power. Sometimes fandom advocates the idol, so even against the agency if there's some kind of dispute, right? And some questioned whether a more ethical system would also be more inclusive, right? And student balanced exploitation critique with structural complexity. And question 4, if other cultural form were organized like a K-pop system, what kind of cultural form and what can be lost, right? And interestingly, I think almost all posts which chose question 4 kind of picked the Japanese manga anime as the culture product. And many argue that anime would require greater centralization and standardization to scale globally like K-pop, right? And in the process, maybe they have to, meet the global, they have to have globally safe styles and themes, and that will reduce creator autonomy. And Oculus Post constantly warned that the anime's key strength, creative diversity, stylistic experimentation, and authenticity could be weakened or lost, right? So overall, the post questioned whether global scalability can coexist with creativity, diversity, and sustainable labor practices. Okay, so let's move on. Group 1's presentation, right? And so Group 1 analyzed white K-pop reaction videos not simply as entertainment, but as cultural text where hybridity is produced, negotiated, and limited. And what stood out in their presentation was their careful attention to emotional investment. These reactors are not casual viewers. They admire K-pop deeply, follow idols closely, and often present themselves as sincere fans rather than just outsiders. So it shows their emotional investment, how much they're invested emotionally, right? But however, as Group 1 emphasized, admiration alone does not dismantle power. Even though these fans admire K-pop idols so much, they still operate within these power dynamics. Even when white fans engage emotionally with Korean culture, their hybridity remains constrained by broader Western racial and gender logics. In particular, the presentation showed how post-racial and color-blind assumptions allow fans to enjoy difference without confronting racial hierarchy. So the key contribution of Group 1 here is shifting the question away from are these fans real or genuine toward how does power continue to operate even when admiration is real. So that framing is essential for the rest of today's lecture. And before moving on to my own lecture material, I want to briefly address the strengths of Group 1's presentation. The one clear strength was that group's strong command of theory. They used O's concepts, hybridity, post-racial logic, and white celebrity fandom accurately and applied them to concrete YouTube examples rather than speaking in abstract terms. Their comparison with other course readings was also very effective. Building directly on Group 1's analysis, I want to emphasize a key concept, the shift from evaluating feelings to analyzing structures. Group 1 showed us that white K-pop fans often express genuine admiration. They cry during music videos because they're so moved, praises idols' talent, and invest time and emotional energy into fandom. But we need to ask a different question. What structures make certain forms of admiration possible and others invisible? For example, white YouTubers reacting emotionally to a K-pop ballad may frame their response as universal. Oh, this music, to anybody, it will move, right? It will be so, you will be moved no matter who you are, right? So they can say that music transcends language or across the boundaries, whatever, right? And this speaks to everybody, right? But while that sounds inclusive, it also removes the song from its specific cultural and racial context. So admiration does not automatically translate into equality. Instead, admiration often operates within existing global hierarchies, where Western perspectives remain centered as neutral or universal. This is exactly the structure structural move that Group 1 helps us identify. And moving on, one of the most important concept Group 1 highlighted is post-racial color blindness. And this deserves a very careful attention here. Colorblind logic often appears progressive. When a fan says, I don't see race, I just see talent, right? Like implying I'm not racist, of course, right? They may believe they are rejecting racism, but color blindness functions by making racial power unspeakable, right? So even though you don't see any color, you don't see any race, it doesn't mean that racism is not there, right? So, I don't see it. Why do we see it? Why don't we even talk about it, right? That pretending like that doesn't erase the existence of racism. And it makes it like, let's not even speak it. We don't see it. Why do we speak, why do we talk about this, right? So Group 1's example of white reactors describing Taeyeon as an angel because of her pale skin and blonde hair is particularly interesting. On the surface, this is praise. Oh, they're praising. Oh, she's so nice, right? Nice looking, whatever. But it aligns beauty with, proximity to whiteness. To be beautiful, to look like angel, you have to look close to white, right? That reinforces Eurocentric standards of beauty without ever naming them, right? So hybridity becomes limited here. Cultural difference is celebrated only when it fits like Western aesthetic norms. So racism is there, but unacknowledged, as if it's not there, right? But it is still there. And when race is unacknowledged, power remains intact. So the racism cannot go away if it is not recognized, right? And also Group 1 also introduced the idea of white celebrity fans, which is crucial for understanding why these reaction videos matter beyond fandom. These YouTubers are not only fans, they are also content producers, right? But by uploading reaction videos, they position themselves as cultural intermediaries. They translate K-pop for Western audiences. In doing so, they gain, fame, money, and, some sort of authority. For example, when a white reactor explains the meaning of BTS music video using Western narrative frameworks, their interpretation often becomes authoritative for other global viewers, despite their limited linguistic and cultural knowledge, right? I mean, they may have more knowledge in Western culture in terms of language and, culture, but they may not have, some sort of knowledge, or their level of knowledge about Korean linguistic and cultural knowledge may not be that much, right? This is where power operates most clearly. White fans gain cultural capital by commenting K-pop, talking about K-pop, right? Or judging K-pop sometimes, while K-pop artists remain the object being interpreted or object being, judged, right? So Group 1's analysis shows how this authority is not accidental, but it is enabled by whiteness. Okay, let's move on to Group 2's presentation. So Group 2 shift our attention from white K-pop fandom to black K-pop fandom, asking a fundamentally different question. Instead of focusing on the limits of hybridity, they examine how black fans engage K-pop through polyculturalism, which is a new term, kind of new concept. That means a framework that emphasizes long history of cultural interaction rather than simply cultural mixing. So key strength of their presentation is that it frames fandom as active cultural participation, not passive consumption. We talked about this concept, like it's not just K-pop fans are not just passive consumers. They are like participants and also producers sometimes. Black fans are shown to recognize K-pop as culturally legible, emotionally familiar, and historically connected to Black musical traditions. So while Group 1 asked, why does hybridity remain limited? Group 2 asks, what does hybridity look like when race is foregrounded rather than erased? And this shift is crucial. And before moving on to my own portion of lecture, I want to briefly address what Group 2 did particularly well. One clear strength was their explanation of polyculturalism. They showed that Black fans are not moving between Blackness and Koreanness, but often embody both simultaneously. They are like moving one to the other. They are they're living this both Blackness and Koreanness at the same time, right? So their use of examples such as Afro Samurai, musical comparisons to Michael Jackson, and imagined collaborations effectively illustrate this point. And then building on Group 2's presentation, I want to emphasize what polyculturalism really means in practice. It does not describe a temporary blending of cultures. Instead, it recognizes that culture have been interacting, influencing, and reshaping one another over time. It's not temporary thing. It has been like that for some time. In this reading, Black fans do not approach K-pop as something foreign, but they must learn from scratch. It doesn't feel like foreign, right? They don't see it as like something like totally new, right? Instead, fandom becomes embodied. It is expressed through emotion, humor, musical recognition, and identification. They're living it. Not they're just learning or consuming. They're living in it, right? When Black YouTubers react to K-pop dance by referencing Black dance traditions or imaging collaborations with Black artists, they are not crossing a boundary. They are inhabiting an already connected cultural space. So this directly bears on Group 2's Afro Samurai example, where Blackness and Asianness coexist without one being subordinated to the other. So one of the most important contributions of this reading, and one that Group 2 highlighted effectively, is the idea of cultural legibility. Black fans often recognize K-pop's musical structure as familiar. They hear R&B vocal techniques, hip-hop rhythms, or trap production, and can trace this element back to Black musical histories. This recognition grants Black fans interpretive authority. They are not explaining K-pop from the outside, but engaging it within shared musical lineages. This is an important contrast with the white celebrity fans discussed in the previous reading, right? While white fans often gain authority through translation and explanation, Black fans' authority emerges through recognition and cultural memory. It's more like into yourself. Their authority is more in their blood. They recognize this, as some of theirs, right? And another crucial difference between this reading and the previous one lies in how race functions. So in Group 1's presentation, we saw how white fandom often relies on colorblind or post-racial logic, where race is minimized or erased or avoided, right? But in contrast, Black K-pop fandom foregrounds race as meaningful. Race becomes a point of connection rather than erasure. Black fans relate to Korean idols through shared history of marginalization, creativity, and global circulation of culture. practices like code switching, moving between AAVE, called ABE, African American Vernacular English, their own English, right, and Standard English and Korean phrases. This code mixing, code switching signal belonging rather than confusion. They use all this code switching to show they belong to multiple communities or multiple groups, right? This makes visible a form of non-white to non-white cultural exchange, challenging the assumption that whiteness must always be central reference point in global fandom. And let me begin by situating Group 3's presentation. Group 2 examined ONO's 2022 article by directly challenging a very common assumption in fan studies. Fandom is automatically respectful, or ethical, right? Their presentation made clear that the assumption does not hold when we look closely at white Western expat fans who produce K-pop reaction video on YouTube, right? Group 3, what Group 3 highlighted especially well is that these fans express genuine admiration for K-pop while simultaneously producing Orientalism, racial hierarchy, and linguistic dominance. In other words, fandom here is not simply about love or enjoyment. It is a site where power is actively performed. So by focusing on white Western expatriates living in Korea, the presentation pushes us to think about how whiteness, foreignness, and fandom interact in particularly revealing ways. Before extending the argument, I want to briefly acknowledge what Group 3 did particularly well. A major strength of presentation was the clear identification of white expat fans as a distinct category. Group 3 explained this concept carefully, showing how expat fans often claim marginality as outsider in Korea, while still benefiting from racial and linguistic privilege. And then one of the most important contribution of this reading, the group, and also something Group 3 emphasized clearly, is how Orientalist judgment operates through humor, right? And white expat fans often describe Korean male idols as too feminine, childish, or strange. Their fashion, makeup, everything, emotional expressions are kind of, and are framed as jokes, right? These comments may seem like harmless because it's like, these are jokes, right? But they're deeply revealing, right? By laughing at Korean masculinity, white expat fans position Western masculinity as the unspoken norm. And humor becomes a way to judge without appearing openly hostile. And as Group 3 pointed out, this allows hierarchy to be reproduced while maintaining a tone of friendliness and fandom, right? And with Group 3, one of the Group 3's discussion questions is is speaking to this point about the fine line between joke and being disrespectful, right? I particularly like this question. This is a crucial moment where the reading moves beyond hybridity. We are no longer looking at limits, but we're looking at active reproduction of cultural hierarchy here. And further, Group 3's discussion of language is also very important here, right? And this expert's reaction video, English functions as a standard against what K-pop is evaluated, right? Lyrics are judged based on whether they make sense, or they're using correct English, or they're using correct pronunciation, and all that. These things are all marked or corrected, often framed as humor, right? At the same time, the host's own limited Korean proficiency is seen as insignificant or amusing, right? This double standard reveals how English operates as a tool of dominance. And I also, as I mentioned last week, K-pop music is produced not only by Koreans in Korea. It's global talents are involved in creating K-pop songs, right? There must be some standard English speakers involved, right? And they can easily ask, native English speakers to check the grammar or whatever, right? But they are deciding, my guess is they don't care. They decide to use a particular English in their Korean songs. That's their identity. That's what makes their songs, Korean. They don't need to make it like a standard English. Why, right? Maybe, making standard English is make their songs less unique. Maybe, maybe it's all planned and intentionally like that. It's not like they don't know or they can't. They can make it as standard as possible if they want to, because they're using all these global talents to make their songs, write their lyrics, and make music, all that, right? But anyhow, language here is, in these reaction videos, language here is not just a means of communication. It is a source of authority. Even within fandom, English allows white expat fans to reclaim power over Korean artists. As Group 3 noted, this shows how deeply linguistic hierarchy is embedded in participatory culture. Okay, so to conclude today's lecture, I want to return to all these readings collectively, show us about K-pop reaction videos. What all these readings show us about K-pop reaction videos together. Across the cases we examined, reaction videos are not neutral responses or simple expression of fandom or enjoyment. These reaction videos are public performances where interpretation, authority, and pleasure are made visible. As we saw, fandom can involve genuine admiration while still reproducing hierarchy at the same time. And reading also demonstrate the hybridity does not operate in the same way for all fans. Race, language, and positionality shape how reaction videos are produced, circulated, and valued. What appears as openness or connection in one context may function as limitation or dominance in another. The key takeaway is that participatory culture is not automatically ethical or equal. Who reacts, from where, and in what language continues to matter. Understanding reaction videos this way allows us to take popular culture seriously, not just as entertainment, but as a site where global power relations are negotiated in everyday media practices. And regarding group presentations, based on observing, screening the 3 presentations, I just want to highlight the things that you have to kind of pay attention to when you make your own group presentations. So it's a presentation, so you have to have a clear intro, clear body, clear conclusion, right? Don't miss any of these, especially intro and conclusion. One is there, the other one is weak and stuff, but you have to have clear introduction and conclusion. In the intro, please introduce your group member, the topic, of course, not too wordy topic. You're talking about this, your group members are this and this and this, table of content, verbally, please. You can spare that time, right? Throughout the body part, some groups put talking head window, like your actual presentation. It's really good to do that, or some add a photo, and but then all these windows for talking head or photos underneath, please put your name. That would be really helpful, right? You know who you are, but the audience doesn't know who you are, right? So it's always nice to put your name under your face, talking head or photo. And what else? Oh, in terms of the length, I think group 2 whose presentation was 15 minutes. Luckily, it was so interesting to listen to. So it was okay. It was okay to listen to the 15 minutes. But it's around 10 minutes, right? Don't go over too much, right? Even though you have so much to say, try to make it concise, right? And I know you're working online, so you may not meet together and you do your own part and put them together, but you still have to make it look like a one presentation, right? How do you do it? Put some transitions between like a one speaker to another. I think one of the groups, was it group 2, made it like a transition between first presenter to second presenter. Well, next, blah, blah, so and so will talk about this. That was really nice. But then from second presenter to third, there's no transition, right? But anyways, adding some transition will make your presentation like as a whole, right? And consistency is really important, right? So, of course, you use the same slide, background and all that. That's, of course, you have to do that. And sometimes sound quality can vary. Like suddenly it seems like a very different quality of sound when it was switched to another presenter. That's not really that good, because it looks so like choppy. It doesn't look like one presentation, right? So it's good to have a good level of sound quality throughout the presentation. That's one. And I think group 2's presentation had first two presenters. There were no image of presenter in their slides, right? No talking heads, no photos. But the third presenter has the talking head. So it's inconsistent, right? Make it consistent, adding like a first two presenters talking head as well, right? Those things. And in terms of slides, try not to add too many text. If in your slide, it may look too busy, right? And then if you add like some short video clips or GIF clips, so there's some motion in it, it's always good, right? But when you add these video clips, you have to think how long I should do. If it's too long, it can be distracting. So you have to choose the right length, and your video clip is there to support whatever you're saying. So you have to make the link very clear. Why is this video is here, right? For your presentation. It must deserve to be here and take up your time, right? And the delivery wise, I know you cannot memorize everything, but somehow the effort to making like it look like sound like a talking rather than just reading. I mean, you can read somewhat, but some effort to make sound like a talking is appreciated, because it's a presentation. It's not a poetry reading, right? So the third member in group 2 and second member in group 3 did a good job in making like you are kind of more talking than reading. So that was really good. And the 3 argument section, right? Please surely clearly state your argument in one sentence in your slide and in your presentation. And group 3 did an excellent job doing it. So don't use just a phrase as as your argument topic. Make a sentence, right? Argument 1 is this. Not too long sentence. Try to make it concise sentence. And then you can explain that argument, right? And then internal external sources. When you present, try your best to make clearly show the connection between your argument and the external source, the relationship. You see clearly, but audience may not see as clearly. So, for sure, it's related. You're talking about the similar things. That is not enough. You say they're saying the same things, but how they're different. Well, how they're contrasted or compared, right? That relationship most clearly stated in this example. This particular cultural product is exemplify this argument in what way? Stated, right? Okay, so that's about my comment on how to improve the presentations as a whole. But again, groups 1, 2, 3, thank you so much for presenting the first round, right? Okay, so this is it for week 3 lecture, and thank you very much for your attention. Oh, and for next week's your discussion forum, please clearly state that your discussion question you're replying to is group 1's first question or group 3's second question, like that. Okay, thank you. This is it. Okay.